How's it going, y'all? Today I'm going to be ranking Phase 5 of the MCU, both movies and TV shows. I'm going to start with the 8 shows, then I'll move on to the 6 movies. That's enough yapping from me though, let's go. At number 8 for the shows, I have Secret Invasion. This show's biggest problem was how cool the Secret Invasion was in the comics. Like, this was an espionage and spy-filled action drama, but the one in the comics was so much better. In the comics, we saw actual superheroes fighting each other, not knowing who'd been taken and swapped. In the show, we see Ross and Rhodey were switched, but I don't know, that's lame, and it didn't really matter for the rest of the universe. I haven't really heard the events of the show mentioned anywhere else, too. The fact that there are millions of Skrulls on Earth, Fury is married to a Skrull, and there's a Skrull out there with all the Avengers' powers, and it's not even being mentioned is pretty crazy to me. They even showed the president essentially declare war on all aliens on Earth, and that hasn't been mentioned either that I know of. I think they really jumped the gun with this show, and honestly, it should have been a movie instead. And they're probably building up to it for the Secret Wars movie, and that could be really cool, but I don't know, this show was incredibly non-memorable and non-impactful to the Marvel Universe overall. This is my least favorite Marvel show to date. It has such great potential, but ended up being very disappointing. At number 7, I have Echo. I'm not going to have a lot to say about the show. For one, it was incredibly boring. This was definitely not a show that was needed and probably shouldn't have been made at all. I don't think Echo's actress was very good, unfortunately. Her first acting role I could find was in Hawkeye, actually. And I just said that, but that's okay. And I don't know, I found it pretty surprising that she got such a big role. I feel like this show, I don't know, it was reaching for viewers. That's why they had to have Daredevil and Kingpin in it. To be fair, they both made sense in the show, especially Kingpin, but it still felt like they just wanted to boost viewers and that was their only idea how. This may be the most forgettable show in the Marvel catalog at this point. It may not be the worst show in the lineup, but I literally couldn't remember a thing about this. I had to look it up and see recaps to make this video. At number 6, I have Ironheart. I want to say this right off the bat, I don't hate this show, and I think a lot of people are over-hating on it. I see people online being mad about some of the villains being different than their comic counterparts. I just want people to go, get over it, like, these characters are characters you've never heard of. So why do you all of a sudden care when someone else is given an opportunity what they usually wouldn't have? I don't know, I'm going to get off my soapbox now, but I just wanted that to be said and get that out of the way immediately. But the show was okay. I didn't really like Riri as a character in general. She kept complaining about not being able to make money and that cracked me up. You were telling me someone with her mind and skills couldn't get a 7-figure offer just about anywhere? I don't know, I just found that kind of silly. She was also manipulative and super immature. So while I didn't like her, I did really like the cast around her. Her mom, her friend, the love interest, like, I don't know, they were all very cool. Not only that, but Joe and Ezekiel were nice, too, to add in. I thought having Obadiah's son in the show was a nice tie-in to Tony Stark without being too overt or annoying. I thought the CGI in the show was fine, except for one part. When Joe was fighting Riri and the lightning was shooting out, it just looked terrible. I don't know why it looked so much worse. I thought the villains weren't great, but they weren't awful either. Hood was an interesting main villain, though. I couldn't get over how much his hair made him look like Lord Farquaad, so that was a problem. The last thing I thought was pretty cool was the surprise villain. I'm not going to mention who it is, but it's a really big name, and I couldn't believe they ended up having that character in the show.
And ponder the question.
At number 5, I have What If Seasons 2 and 3. I'm just going to lump them together. I've truly never been big on this series. Part of that is how good it is in the comics. This show is so watered down and not random enough to be good as it is in the comics. I honestly hate that all the stories go together. They're supposed to all be one-off stories, and they should be on their own. This makes all the stories have a similar cookie-cutter feeling, and I don't know, I just think it's lame. Like, the series is absolutely obsessed with Peggy being Captain Britain. She's not that interesting, and if they really wanted to do that, just do it in live action. Don't have to do it, just bring her in. We have multiverses, so they could literally make anything make sense. Some of the stories aren't too bad, though. Like, I did like the idea of Native Americans fighting off Cortez. I think using history could make these very interesting. Like doing a story from 1,000 years ago when Thor came to Earth would be cool. Or if Doctor Strange messed up with the time stone and ended up being in the 1500s. I think that, I don't know, it's more creative than Howard the Duck dating Darcy. But instead we get stories where Hulk basically ends up being Godzilla, or Agatha makes movies with Howard Stark as the director. I don't know, it just feels weird. I feel like they made these stories with Mad Libs and it's annoying. I just really wish this show could have been as cool as it should have been. I feel like they used no creativity and just made stuff up. And I don't know, they wanted certain characters in the same room, and that's all they did. I just wish this show could have been as good as it could have been. At number 4, I have Agatha All Along. I wasn't huge on this show at first, but it did grow on me a bit. It helped that it came out in October and had me feeling all the Halloween things. But the first episode is annoying. I don't like that they wasted an entire episode on Agatha being a small-time cop. I think it's silly and really a waste of time. I'm also not that huge on the side characters in this. Like, I like the kid, I like Agatha, and I like Death, but other than that, they were boring. I did find this pretty interesting, though. I like seeing them go down the road and going through different trials. Them changing outfits and vibes for every place is cool, and it keeps the show moving pretty well. It was also very cool finding out that William was really Billy Maximoff. It should have been something that I saw coming, but I truly had no idea. I wasn't super interested in seeing the side characters' backgrounds. Like, I didn't care about Lilia's upbringing, sorry. The last cool twist of the show is that Billy created the Witch's Road all by himself, and I think that's pretty awesome. He takes after his mother and is truly incredibly powerful. This probably isn't a show I'd rewatch, but I'm not mad that I watched it. At number 3, I have Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I wasn't actually even aware of this show until it came out. I feel like it wasn't really heavily advertised, and I think that was a mistake. I really like the animation, and I like how the universe is very different than the one that we usually see. I like that his mentor, at first at least, is Osborn instead of Tony Stark. It was a nice surprise how they did it, and I don't know, it's cool. I like his friendship with Lonnie quite a bit. I actually think Lonnie is truly the most interesting character in the entire show. He's truly a good guy, and he just gets in trouble to help save his little brother from the gang life. Like, that's so noble. He is a pretty tragic character. I like all the new suits and looks that Peter tries out in this season. It's cool seeing alternate costumes. I also like Harry Osborn in the show as well. He's a rich kid influencer and a pretty good friend of Peter. I love that Daredevil shows up randomly too, and how much Daredevil, even while holding back, kicks his ass. I love Daredevil, and it was a nice surprise to see him in that. I like that Doc Ock was the villain supplying everyone else with tech, like, so all the criminals could be as bad as they could be. It just makes a lot of sense. I like that we get to see Norman show his true character, telling Peter, with great power comes great respect, which is crazy. This show is so good and has so many different things happening during it. This is probably the show I had the lowest bar for, and it exceeded my expectations the most. At number 2, I have Daredevil Born Again. I was very excited to see Daredevil come back into the fold, and the show definitely held up. I really love Daredevil stories that show Matt being a lawyer. I know that's silly, but seeing Matt be a lawyer and do lawyer things is more interesting to me than almost any fights he does. I also like that there are some interesting dynamics in this season, like how Kingpin knows that Matt is Daredevil but can't really do anything about it, and how vigilantes are under more scrutiny than usual because of Fisk becoming mayor. I love seeing how much it felt like the real world today with a bad guy in power. It's nice seeing Daredevil finally suit up and fight. He's so damn good at fighting, and the fight choreography is always incredible. Another nice surprise in the show was seeing Frank Castle again. The Punisher is such a good and dynamic character, and seeing him there was perfect. New York is such a crazy place to be by the end of the season. Kingpin has full control, has his own private army essentially, and he's got all his enemies in cages. I am ecstatic to see where they go next with Daredevil, Kingpin, and the Punisher. I loved this show. And at number 1, I have Loki Season 2. Loki Season 1 was very good, but I think Loki Season 2 was better based off of one thing: the ending. But I'll get to that in a minute. I really like seeing how this season they met and interacted with a Kang variant. I thought that was awesome. It was interesting to see how different one variant could be from another. It was also interesting watching Miss Minutes try to manipulate Renslayer, especially when we see the truth about where she came from and how she was originally Kang's general. I also love the introduction of Ouroboros in the show. Ever since Ke Huy Quan was a sensation in Everything Everywhere All at Once, I've been really enjoying him pop up in things. I like that the season started out with Loki in a different timeline, and I really enjoyed the time jumping. It made much more sense in here compared to something like Lost where they did it and it was awful. I liked watching Loki travel to get his friends and help them save the timeline, and how Sylvie was just working at a fast food restaurant, and how especially Mobius finally got to be on a jet ski as a jet ski salesman. That was awesome. I loved Loki going back in time to give Ouroboros more time to work on fixing something. I loved Loki traveling back far enough to where he could actually just do it himself and learn the science of it. I loved watching him have to reset time and do it again and again and fail like it was a Groundhog's Day special. But most of all, I love how Loki went out himself. He saved the timeline and became the god of stories. It was such a perfect end for a character, and I am so grateful that he got it. Alright, now to rank the 6 Phase 5 Marvel movies.
What's your name? Miss Marvel? Dude. Twinsies.
At number 6, I have The Marvels. Let me start off by saying that I don't hate this movie. It's just has a few things holding it back. For one, the villain might be the worst one in the MCU. I never felt like she was a real threat, and I truly don't even remember her name. I couldn't remember to save my own life. Unfortunately, Captain Marvel hasn't had many great villains so far, and that's held her back as a character in my opinion. She can potentially piece up Thanos. Why not give her a real villain to fight? I think that's dragged the movie down quite a bit for me personally. What I did like, though, was the 3 heroes bonding and working together, especially Miss Marvel. I think the actress that plays Kamala Khan is fantastic and really loves Marvel and her character, and you could see it during the show and movie. Because of this, we can easily see her energy on screen and how much fun she's having there, which is great. I thought the fights were okay. I liked that they had to make Captain Marvel less powerful by setting up the power switching with these 3. It was a smart way to make her villain a possible threat. I thought the singing planet was nice. Thought that was a fun scene. It was random and fun and not too bad. But overall, this movie wasn't great. Having a terrible villain certainly didn't help overall. But in general, it just wasn't that great. At number 5, I have Ant-Man Quantumania. I really wanted this movie to be good so bad. First of all, it was all the Ant-Man and Wasp powered people in a movie together, and I thought that was fun. And I also just love Paul Rudd, so I was rooting for him off jump. But it did not meet expectations, unfortunately. This should have been a huge movie, and I'm honestly remembering only some of the plot probably because it was so forgettable. I didn't think the quantum world looked very cool, and I didn't think it looked good either. It looked so weird and fake and cheap. I thought it was random having Bill Murray in there. If you want someone to play this character, I would have gotten someone else, because it's kind of a waste of Bill Murray. Having him play some... I know he's not a nobody in the comics world, but kind of a nobody. Bringing back MODOK was a good idea, but the way he looked was just really dumb. He also never really felt like a real threat to me. The super intelligent ants were funny. They were all geniuses, and that's, I don't know, silly. Then we got to see Kang. This was supposed to be a huge villain that was going to take over the multiverse. The one that takes Thanos' place and become the big bad. But instead he got his ass kicked by Ant-Man. He truly just got pieced up by one of the physically weakest heroes. That's ridiculous. They also had the perfect chance to kill off Ant-Man at the end and couldn't do it. They could have even had him sacrifice himself to save everyone, but nope. They win, everyone's okay. There's not much else to say about this movie. The ending really made this ranking go lower, though. At number 4, I have Captain America: Brave New World. This was the definition of a mid-movie. Like, it's not bad like the 2 ones below it, which they aren't really that bad either. They're not great. But, I don't know, this felt like such a Disney Plus show. I have a hard time believing Falcon could be Captain America without the super serum. Like, someone could just shoot him if they wanted, and that's crazy. And it's not like he has the Iron Man suit that covers him completely. He's just in danger all the time. I do like that they brought Isaiah back. Poor guy could not catch a break, unfortunately. I thought Harrison Ford was a weird person to be the new Ross, but it ended up being okay. I thought the mind control thing was interesting, but the villain behind it was so lame. For one, we haven't thought of this dude since 2008. The Incredible Hulk was a forgettable movie, and he may be one of the most forgettable people in it. He also looked disgusting. He looked like the guy from Sin City. I'm not 100% sure, but he might have been played by Elijah Wood. But either way, not like a superhero villain in the MCU. He looked gross. And his powers or calculations, that's so boring. I get he's really smart, but I don't know, it just seems lame. I thought it was silly that Ross didn't know this guy was going to betray him. That's so dumb. Like, he probably didn't think he was becoming the Hulk like he was, but like, he shouldn't, I don't know, he should have been more skeptical of this guy that he's been keeping imprisoned. I like that this movie finally acknowledges the giant body in the ocean from the Eternals. It seems like Marvel had completely forgotten about it. But the fights in the movie were fine. I still don't buy that a non-juiced up Falcon could take on Red Hulk, but oh well. I think this movie was completely okay, and I'll probably never watch it again.
To be clear, I'm not proud of it.
At number 3, I have Deadpool and Wolverine. This was the most fan-servicey movie out there, and I was all for it. I'm not huge on Deadpool as a character overall. He gets a bit annoying for me at some point, and it gets tough to watch. But when you pair him with someone like Wolverine, who will hit him if he starts making too many quips, then it's perfect. From the very start of it with Bye 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 playing, I knew we were in for a fun movie. I like that immediately they tied it into the TVA because that makes a lot of sense for this. I like the idea that he's got to bring Wolverine back to his world because he's such a great hero and made such a big sacrifice that he was the glue for their universe. Then when they had their first fight, it was great. I never thought I'd see Hugh Jackman in the role again, so it was really nice getting him back for this. I got so excited in the theater when Chris Evans showed up, and I had a feeling he was Human Torch instead. I was so happy to see that I was right. When I said it was fan servicey earlier, I didn't mean for people who've had the MCU their whole life. I meant people a little older who grew up with like Blade and Daredevil and the original Fantastic Four. That bit of nostalgia was amazing. Seeing all of them fight on the same side was pretty great. It's funny in a Deadpool movie that he's like the 10th, probably my 10th favorite character in it. I don't know. I thought the villain was very good and terrifying. Cassandra Nova is so dang powerful, and watching her easily shred heroes was crazy. This is starting to get a bit too long for my liking, so I want to talk about two more things at the end. First, the fight with Deadpool's, like all the Deadpools, was super cool and fun to watch. I thought the fight choreography was phenomenal, and I've rewatched it a few times now. Then there was the Deadpool and Wolverine coming together to save the multiverse. I couldn't have thought of a better possible ending. This was a good movie and fun as heck to watch. At number 2, I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I came into this movie with some bias, I'm not gonna lie. I hated Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So I was not really sure what I'd be coming into, but I was very pleasantly surprised. This was Rocket's movie, and we got to learn that pretty immediately. Throughout it, we got to see the terrible experiments that were done to him when he was younger. He really had a terrible life and had to watch all of his friends die. Another big thing in this movie is that Gamora was back. Well, not their Gamora. The Gamora from like 10 years ago who doesn't really know them very well. This kills Peter because they were in love, and now he's stuck with all these feelings that she doesn't seem to have for him at all. I loved all the fights in this and how they've begun using their powers in such different ways. Especially Mantis, I feel like they're getting very creative with her powers, and I'm really here for it. I thought the villain was very good as well. The High Evolutionary isn't only powerful, but he's the one that essentially ruined Rocket's life. The planet the High Evolutionary lives at was super interesting as well. All the animal hybrids were cool, and we even got to see the MCU say their first F word, and that was fun. I loved their hallway fight scene. It was probably my favorite scene in the entire movie. Just all of them in sync, working together with their powers and skills on full display. Very cool. Lastly, I love that they've really turned the Ravengers into a safe haven for other groups and people. They went from like literally an evil group to, I don't know, a group that saves people's lives, and I just really love that. I never thought I'd say this, but I am very excited to see where the Guardians, all the characters, go next. At number 1, I have the Thunderbolts. Now, this was a great movie that felt like the old days. I wasn't sure if I would like this movie based on the premise, but man was I wrong. It was such a fun and good movie. Two standouts were Yelena and Red Guardian. David Harbour was hilarious throughout. He really got the lonely divorced dad vibe perfectly, and I don't know, I loved his dynamic with Yelena the whole time. He was like the dorky dad, and she was just embarrassed of him. Speaking of Yelena though, Florence Pugh was phenomenal in this. You rarely see real acting in these movies these days, especially like MCU movies, but she honestly could have gotten an Oscar nod for her performance in this. She really made you feel things during this movie. The rest of the characters were pretty great too. I thought the US agent was so much better than he was in the show. He actually had a story and emotional like depth, that's the word I was trying to say. Emotional depth this time. The last character I wanted to mention was Bob. I thought he was really good throughout, especially since he essentially had to play two different characters. I like that this movie played with expectations as well. Like how it ended was completely different than I expected. I had no idea how they'd defeat Sentry, but they did a good job of it. It made sense. When I first saw Sentry use his powers, my jaw dropped. Watching people turn to shadows was crazy, but this movie was just very, very good, and I'm really excited to see where they go with these characters in the future. How the heck are they going to have Sentry on a team and not just automatically win? I don't know, I'm super curious, and I imagine you are too, but we'll see. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Comment below where you'd rank them if it's differently, and I hope you have a phenomenal day. See you next week. Bye.
Together.